What comes to mind when you think of tourbillons? Known as the pinnacle of watchmaking, it's usually only reserved for the elite and only obtainable after you've either won a lottery or just walked over a suitcase filled with wads of $1,000 notes. Now, what comes to mind when you think of Chinese tourbillons? A ripoff? A cheap piece of junk? What if I told you you could own the pinnacle of watchmaking for 300 USD? Are you interested now? Some of us are economically more capable, yet for the majority of us, including myself, we are only poor souls that suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Or so I would like to claim. Yet the truth is that even if I were a rich mother lover, I wouldn't spend thousands of dollars and even tens of thousands of dollars on a watch. You would have to be crazy or just plain dumb if you need to spend that much money on material goods. I was crazy at a point in my life for sure, but I've recovered. Thank you very much. Today's watch is an insane value proposition and only could be possible in the modern day. Hello, my name is Martin, and I have a lust for watches. Thank you for joining me, and I would like to speak to you today about a tourbillon from Aesop, the galaxy. As always, we need to discuss history. Tourbillons. First conceived by British watchmaker John Arnold, it was soon developed by his friend, a Swiss-French watchmaker, Abraham Louis Breguet, and patented on June 26, 1801. In a tourbillon, the escapement and balance wheel rotate in a cage that's meant to offset the gravitational forces on a watch sitting in a pocket. In the modern day, on a wrist, a tourbillon is mostly wasted effort, as your wrist isn't stuck in one position. However, it's such an aesthetically pleasing complication and one that showcases a watchmaker's abilities to the rest of the world that many high-end watch companies reserve it and include it in only their select few. The original patent for the single-axis tourbillon goes back to 1801, and it would take another 176 years before the double-axis tourbillon would make its entrance. Created by Anthony Randall, the first working example of its kind was constructed by Richard Good in 1978. Since this time, there have been numerous advancements, such as double and quadruple tourbillons, and further pushing the envelope, a triple-axis tourbillon and also a flying tourbillon, and the highest of which is the gyro tourbillon, created by none other than JLC in 2004. As is evident in today's watch and the price that it can be had, gone are the days of tourbillons costing up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Instead, it is quite possible that you may find Swiss-made watches for less than 10,000 USD. Of course, Swiss-made being at least 60% from within Switzerland. About the brand Aesop, it's not a brand with much history, as is typical of brands found within China's horological past. It was founded in 2003 in Guangzhou, of course near Hong Kong. It's pretty much where most watch companies are based in China. Their website is pretty sparse and barely works, unless you switch to the Chinese version, in which case you'll be able to see a few more things like additional watches and a bit more than just some paintings. Okay, so the brand isn't really going to win you over. What about Aesop the figure? Aesop was a Greek fabulist and storyteller. It's unclear if he was a fictional character himself or if he ever existed. There are no written works by him that survive to this day, and his stories have been gathered across the years by a storytelling tradition. He was supposedly born around 620 BCE, according to Aristotle, and born a slave, yet most of his life history, even from such sources as great as Aristotle, Herodotus, and Plutarch, remain most likely fictional and embellished. Suffice to say, both brand and figure are elusive to say the least, and shouldn't really have any influence on whether or not the watch appeals to you. I will say though that it is a decent brand name and does impart a sense of a past even though we know there really isn't one at all. Funny and sad at the same time to know that marketing just works. The specs. The watch comes on a bracelet or leather strap, both of which aren't very good, but you can be the judge of that. There are 4 variants, the silver finish that's shown today, but also rose gold, black, and gold. They all look pretty nice. I kinda wish I picked gold or rose gold, but I'm not that old just yet. For the measurements. Wingspan of 50 millimeters, width of 42.5 millimeters, and a 22 millimeter lug width. Case thickness comes in at 11 millimeters and weighs 70 grams with a leather bracelet and has a water resistance rating of 5 ATM. I would suggest that you don't go diving in this watch. The movement isn't identified other than being called original tourbillon movement. It does have 48 hours of power reserve and beats at 28,800 BPH. It is hand wound and comes with no seconds hand, however you do get that tourbillon that will do 1 revolution per minute. It has a deviation of 10 seconds a day, but I've seen it do more, up to 15, but also 5, so it's a bit jumpy, but let's be frank. Does anyone really care? Most are only interested in the looks, and the accuracy is good enough provided it just runs. The watch has a blue dial with sparkling elements. It is advertised as natural blue sandstone, but more commonly referred to as aventurine. I don't know if the actual dial is a proper aventurine, as in a glass made with silica, copper oxide, and other metal oxides, but it certainly does look nice. On the dial is the sun, and with some orbital ellipses are the planets Mars, Earth, and I think what's supposed to be Uranus or Neptune. It's not so clear which one, as it clearly isn't Pluto. Each planet and sun is raised from the dial, giving it a textured quality, but it's not anything too special as it has a sticker kind of quality, albeit a high quality and detailed sticker. At the top is the name of the brand, Aesop, printed in calligraphic text, and to the left side of the dial are some random constellations that actually don't refer to any specific known constellation, so go ahead and name them for yourself. At the outside of the dial is the minute text every 5 minutes and a dash to indicate each minute, and is printed in the same color as the logo, orbits, and constellations. Of course, the main feature of the dial is the tourbillon located at the 6 o'clock position. It's got a nice polished border which is smooth, giving the opening a nice finished quality to it. There is a sapphire crystal on the top and backside, allowing visibility of the movement from both sides. It's a flat sapphire crystal, and so there's no distortion and there's no mention of any AR coating. And it doesn't look like it has any, but it doesn't really hamper visibility to a point where it becomes an actual issue. The baton indices are stainless steel and are rather small given the size of the dial. They have a rounded top and are applied, giving them a raised look, but only by about a ½ millimeter or so. The 12 o'clock index is a double lollipop and all the indices are there except for 6 o'clock index. The 5 and 7 o'clock index is cut in half by the aperture of the tourbillon. With a slightly rounded profile, it looks smooth, and both the ends also have a similar roundedness to it. It's decent visibility, however due to its size it could be a bit hard to see, especially when there's a strong light source allowing the stars to sparkle and overtake the indices. The alpha style hands are, as the indices, small compared to the rest of the dial. There is a thin strip of lume that goes down the middle of each hand, and each hand is split evenly down the middle with a thin platform in the middle and 2 slightly sloping faces on either side. There is no counterbalance for either hand, and both are firmly placed into the off-center of the dial. It should be noted that due to the size of the tourbillon aperture, the center of the dial for the hands has been shifted up in the y-axis for clearance. The lume is barely on there and not really a selling feature of the watch. Probably would have been best served with no application at all. It's not a bad execution and is visible at night, but you'll have to do the old squint to see it well. Would have been really nice to see a dot of lume on the tourbillon to see if it was running in the dark if you hadn't wound the watch for some time. The case is smooth and sleek. It's rounded on all edges and there's no sharpness to this thing, and you couldn't cut a wet noodle if your life depended on it. You just end up making a squish mess of it all. It's got 2 rounded profiles that encase the movement and the rest of the watch above. It's very well done and I'm very pleased with the finishing on it. It's all polished, so it will pick up fingerprints and all sorts of scratches, but it builds character, doesn't it? The onion crown is very nicely done as well, and it comes with a smooth cap, giving the winding experience a great mixture of grip and smoothness. The turning of the crown is also quite pleasant, much to my surprise. It's smooth and the clicks have a great haptic feedback. The one thing that I don't really like is that you can't really tell when it's coming to a full wound. It will give you feedback on when it's fully wound, but it does so within 2 clicks, so not gradually over multiple winds. Just be careful and don't overwind if you don't need to, and be gentle with it. The lugs are longer than most other dress watches, I find, but they curve down nicely to sit on top of your wrist. There's no additional bevels or any extra flaring to give it any other characteristics other than to say, I'm a watch. The case back, as mentioned previously, is full exhibition. Unfortunately, most of the movement is hidden behind the pillar plate, but you can see the tourbillon working away from the backside. Also, when you wind the watch, you can see the gears rotating to give you visual feedback of the winding action. The pillar plate is finished in what I can call at best a turbine style finishing. It's actually really nice and allows the light to radiate over it. A surprising feature of the watch is the text that's embossed around the ring on the case back. It's really well executed, and I didn't really expect this type of finishing on such a cheap watch. Makes my other more expensive watches look like simple trinkets. It's embossed with the text Tourbillon, mechanical, stainless steel, waterproof, and sapphire. Obviously, this is a tourbillon movement. The actual model is not specifically called out anywhere, so I can't confirm or deny anything here. All I know is that it works, and it looks great doing it. It should be noted that if you do decide that you'd like to purchase this watch, you should be careful that you are picking the correct movement type. There is one type that has what looks like 2 sickles on the carriage, and on the case back is an outline of a spider. It's cheaper than the one I am showing. I'm sure it performs just as well, but for whatever reason, it is priced lower. So make sure that you are picking correctly and that you are not buying the incorrect one. I obviously went with the more dressier option here instead of the spider look, but you can decide for yourself which one suits your taste more. I did purchase the watch on the bracelet, however, as is the standard, that went straight off and I put this on a ostrich strap, which I also picked up from AliExpress. The bracelet isn't horrible, it has a butterfly clasp and it's got a mix of polished and brushed surfaces, and it helps to give the watch a sportier look if that's your thing. Alright, the pros. First thing, the price. 300 USD for this watch. You've got to keep this in mind while I talk about the pros and cons. The dial. It's not every day that I get to see the galaxy on such a small scale, but this is exactly that. With hues that range from blue to purple to violet and indigo, it's got serious visual presence on the wrist. With a turn of the wrist, you really get to appreciate how the stars sparkle and shine as the reflections play on. The finishing on the watch is superb and really surprised me. I'm quite used to watches from China and own all sorts of cheap homages, so I've really gotten accustomed to poorly finished edges and having to sand them down and reprofile the corners to give them a bit of smoothness. However, on this watch, it's just polished all over and there's no such thing as a sharp edge. I especially love being able to see through the tourbillon aperture. It's a complication that no other watch in my watch has and really elevates this watch on its own pedestal. The caseback and the embossed lettering also really caught me off guard. I've always lusted after the big names like Vacheron and A. Longasana, and when you see the engraving on those casebacks, you really get green in the face with envy. But perhaps not anymore for myself after seeing this watch. It's got just that right mixture of polished lettering and brushed background, and really goes to show you that you really can fake it till you make it. For the cons, well, there's always something, isn't there? No such thing as the perfect watch. Otherwise, we wouldn't be buying more watches and all watch manufacturers will be out of business, except the one making that one perfect watch. The hands. It's just a bit too small and too difficult to see. In the same vein, the indices are also too small and too difficult to see. When the dial isn't sparkling, it's easy enough, but when you are in broad sunlight with the reflections working against you, it's a bit of a stretch to say that you can tell the time on this watch. I feel like the hands should have been slightly bigger and either be brush finished instead of polished, or big enough to sport some lume instead. For the indices, perhaps instead of baton style, it could have benefited from a trapezoid shape. It's not truly a con, but rather wishful thinking that I wish the pillar plate wouldn't have taken up all the view in the back. I think it would be a great addition to allow more of the movement to be visible, as that's what this watch really offers over other watches. Lastly, I know that the brand isn't coming with a lot of history, but it's a disservice to hide the name on the dial. Because of the script text and the fact that it's just printed and not applied, the visibility of the brand is obscured. If the logo was done in a different color, such as white, or a brighter color than the minute markers and numbers, then it would have given the branding a visually elevated position. Would I ever repeat this purchase should I lose or break the watch beyond repair? Yes, I would repeat this purchase, but not for the exact same watch. Probably either go for rose gold or gold. And also by then I would shop around to see what other tourbillons have come out from China to see if there's any competition. Currently there aren't too many options, but there are a few, though the aventurine dial really sold me on this watch along with the galaxy design motifs, which I'm a sucker for. Aesop really hits it out of the solar system with this offering. I can't say that it will last a lifetime and beyond, but who cares? For 300 USD, you can have on your wrist a piece of horological history and technology that was in centuries past only reserved for the social elite and wealthy. Now even poor Joe Blows like you and I can own a tourbillon and marvel at its majestic grace. I feel like the current affordable watch market has really opened up the doors for the rest of us poor folk to truly get a feel for high horology at a fraction of the price of entry. If you like this video and would like to see more, you know what to do. Until next time, keep it real. Bye bye. Watch list, watch list, watch list, watch list.